Let's cross live now to speak to CNN reporter Michael Yoshida. Michael, thanks for joining us on Sky News Australia. A very different tone to this meeting.
Hey, good to be with you, Alex. Yeah, much different tone. You mentioned that meeting earlier this year. That meeting, fair to say, got quite tense at points, with a big focus at one time on the attire of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and that was discussed briefly during some of the question and answer period before the start of today's meeting. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a suit today. He was in a suit the last time he met with the president, after that earlier meeting as well, when he was just in a t-shirt. So a much different tone today. Prior to this meeting, of course, so much focus on this meeting about the potential for the United States to possibly provide those American Tomahawk missiles, these long-range missiles, to Ukraine. It's something they've been asking for from allies for quite some time to help them in their efforts in this war. Of course, these long-range missiles would give them then the capability to fire and hit well within side of Russia. And this is something the U.S. had been reluctant to do, something the president had been reluctant to do. But in recent weeks, he has started to float the idea of possibly making them available to the Ukrainians as a way to potentially get Russia to shift its negotiating posture. We know that following that summit in Anchorage, Alaska, just a few months ago, that the president had gone into that hoping for some sort of peace deal. Obviously, that did not happen. And there was some frustration in the administration with the president coming out of that. We know following that, the U.S. actually started to shift some of its intelligence sharing with the Ukrainians, giving them more intelligence on targets potentially further and deeper into Russia, things focused on Russian energy-related sites and facilities. So this has sort of been building up as the talks have really been in a holding pattern. And again, of course, like I said, this latest meeting, the Ukrainian president here in Washington, D.C. at the White House, a big focus on what may or may not come of it, particularly when it comes to the potential for those long-range missiles possibly being provided to the Ukrainians.
Yeah, and is that the key point that we're looking out for? Clearly, the two leaders and their advisors speaking as we're having this discussion. So we don't know what's going to come out of it, but we know what Volodymyr Zelensky wants. And it sounds like those goals are more aligned to what President Trump wants.
Yeah, we just in the Q&A period, we heard that they were very aligned in their points of wanting peace. President Trump saying that following his 2.5-hour conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, that he believed Putin wanted peace and wanted to reach a deal. Zelensky didn't quite agree with him there. He said Ukraine wants peace, but from where he sees it, Russia is still being the aggressor, still being forceful with their bombardments on cities within Ukraine. So a little bit of daylight there, but when it comes to this idea of trying to further the negotiations, it seems both see the potential for whether it's security guarantees, these Tomahawk missiles, other sanctions as being some sort of pressure point for them to try and get everyone to the table. Of course, coming out of yesterday's meeting with yesterday's phone call with President Putin, Trump raised the idea of meeting with the Russian president yet again within possibly the next few weeks in Hungary. Today, Ukrainian President Zelensky was asked about that. He said he wouldn't potentially, take part in that. The president, Trump, said it would most likely just be himself and the Russian president, but that maybe somehow through other conversations, Ukraine could be involved as well. So again, you mentioned it, this meeting's still ongoing, and we're still obviously have our eyes, our ears waiting to hear what is said, what is written potentially on social media, as it often is these days, coming out of this meeting, and what it could potentially mean for the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah, we'll bring our viewers those details when we know them. Michael Yoshida, CNN reporter in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.